The Pennsylvania Dutch, Night Before Christmas, written by Chet Williamson and narrated by Bruce King. It was night before Christmas, and all over the farm nothing was schusslich, no cause for alarm. The socks were all hung by the chimney just so, with the hopes that they get fill up from ankle to toe. The nix-noches snoozing without any sound, in their heads clear toy candies been dancing around. And Mama and me, well, we oughtn't the light, crawled under the covers and snuggled up tight. Then from outside we heard something fierce, made open our eyeballs and rattled our ears. There was crashing and banging, and could it be true? Did our ears deceive us, or was that a moo? Then off to the window we ran in the dark. Kicked the dog accidentally, started to bark. Then we looked through the window. Coming in through the gate, it wasn't one mooer we saw, it was 8. There they're looking out the window. 4 cows and 4 steers, they were harnessed somehow, and for dragging behind them an old-fashioned plough. And there just behind it, as sour as a pickle, was a fellow we knew had to be the Belsnickel. He wiggled that plough to keep going on course. I think he'd done better if he had a horse. So dopplich and slow those 8 dummers did run, and he growled and he grumbled and yelled at each one. Now Jakey, now Becky, now Rachel, Josiah, on Menno, on Sarah, Esther and Obadiah, and watch where you're going, there's nothing unwiser than stomping your hoofs into stray fertilizer. They got through the barnyard without any hitch, and the Belsnickel grumbled and raised a big switch. Climb up on the roof now, and you make it snappy. You don't want to make me no more unhappy. Mock off on that trellis, and then to the porch roof, and don't get no ivy vines caught in your hoof. I'll get awful gristlick if you make me fall, so clamber up, clamber up, clamber up all. There they're clambering up the roof. Like the chickens all look when to fly they are trying, or the mess the kids are making when shoes they are tying. So clumsy they climbed up an inch with each moo. But somehow they made it, and it wonders me too. And then in a twinkle we heard on the roof each cow that was rooching around stomping its hoof. The cracks of the roof timbers filled all our ears, 'cause it just wasn't built for 4 cows and 4 steers. Uh-oh, now I wonder what's happening. By now all the kiddies had run in our room, frightened by all those cracks and those booms. To tell 'em what happened, I was just going up again, when jumping Jesui, the ceiling fell in. Down came the Belsnickel plop in our bed, a few shingles making down right on his head. And then we looked up through the hole in the ceiling. It was just a little bit worried we're feeling. For there overhead was that 8-headed cattle, still stomping so hard it made the walls rattle. We felt as if you'd all been cursed and verhexed, and the cows would fall into our bedroom next. But they on the roof stayed, and I wiped the Veshvet, and looked at that scary old Belsnickel yet. He's looking up at the cows. He had got to his feet and was brushing his breeches, holding his sack and using his switches. He was dressed all in black from his toes to his hat, and he frowned and said, "Hey, what you looking at? Ain't you never seen the Belsnickel before?" Well, I had, but the others had come through the door. His beard was all strooplik as white as snowfall, his belly so skinny, and nearly was all. I couldn't help thinking that this crabby guy could use a few dumplings and shoe-fly pie. His eyes, they looked angry, and though they seemed wild, when he looked at the kiddies, he just sort of smiled. Then he wiped it away like he'd made a mistake, or for him some schnitzenet Mama should make. That's like a big cat. Then he asked all the kiddies, "Have you been bad or sweet? If it's good then you've been, then I'll give you a treat. But if you've been bad, then I'll warm your britches with one of my special bad kitty switches." They said that they'd been good, and they were telling the truth. Stewie glowered at Amos and grimaced at Ruth. He frowned down at Abner, who just kind of grinned, and the Belsnickel leaned down and tickled his chin. "Ah, crabby I might seem, but don't you forget, I ain't never had to spank fun kitty yet. It just must be something around in the air that makes kitties act better this time of year." So his switches he dropped and he opened his sack. He handed out oranges, yo-yos, and jacks. A dolly for Ruth, a wood horse for Amos. We laughed as we watched him, and who could blame us? And finally he gave to Abner a teddy. With that final gift, to leave he was ready. But he said as he crawled over shingles and sticks, "I'll send over Stolzfuss, your broke roof to fix." Then he chumped the hole through up to his waiting plow, and he yelled to the livestock, "Get going, and down to the ground without no complaint, until we get done and the houses all ain't." Then they sprung off the roof to the yard way below, where they got stuck in nearly 40 inches of snow, and the belsnickel yelled, brushing snow off his head, "Merry Christmas, Zool! Now just go back to bed." The end.